For this part, we will make some improvements on our previous database that we created in part 3. So here's the file again. Let's go ahead and open it. Okay, let's look at the relationships between. So you go to Database Tools, Relationships. This is where we last left it. As we can see, we have clients can have many transactions. Transactions can have many line items. Each line item will have a product, which means a product could have many line items. Okay, so that's the narrative for this. However, we would like to improve this database a little bit. Maybe as you're working with your client might say, well, under product, I would like to have the manufacturer of the product in there to identify the product furthermore. As that could be an additional field, okay? Or it could be a separate entity related to product, okay? So that's one possibility. Other improvements will be in the way the line items will handle the order ID and the product ID, where they will automate the insertion of these two fields. So all you have to worry about is, okay, what is this order? And which product does it belong to? All you have to do after that is update the quantity purchased to complete the transaction. Let's look at the behavior of this database as it stands. So if I open the client table, at this stage, notice there are an additional column here that has pluses. This occurred after we've established the relationships in the database tools, which means after we've done this, we told the database, especially here in Microsoft Access, how these entities are related. And that is when you get this column here that has all these pluses. So how is that going to help you? If you click on any of them, notice it goes down to the transaction, okay? So it is associated to a specific transaction, okay? So for example, this one here is a transaction date. So this person here could have a transaction. Let's say today, what is today? 03/09/2020, okay? That would be a transaction. And as soon as I do that, notice I get a plus sign here. What it's saying is, under this transaction, do you have any line items? And if you click here, sure enough, I have a bunch of line items. Except, I would like to make the product ID a little more useful right here, where if I click on it, I can pick my products. So I don't have to go back to the product table, open it, and look at product IDs in there, right? So if I go to the product, I'll have to look at the IDs that are in here and fill the blank that's in here. Otherwise, you're going to have a referential integrity issue. So let's suppose you bought, and let's make a mistake on purpose. Let's say you bought T5600 as a product ID, and you bought 5 of these. Now, we know we don't have T5600. If you open the product table, I only have Gizmo 100 and Gizmo 200, right? So that would be a referential integrity issue. Now, what happens if I hit enter? There you go. It's going to say you cannot add or do this because you don't have such a product, T5600, okay? So I have to modify this to make this work. So let's look at the product. So only existing product ID. So as you can see, I have to go this back and forth, going back to the product, looking at the ID, identify the ID that I need to get this to work. So this could be Gizmo, and you're going to have to spell it right too, 100. Now let's see if I hit enter, what happens. And hit enter. Fine. Everything is fine there. No more error message. And that's because this product ID exists. Now, it'd be a little nicer if I had a feature, if I click here, I can actually pick a product from here. Okay? Excellent. So, a couple improvements at this stage. So, we're going to include the product from here, right? So, we want this field under remember this table right here is line item, right? So we're going to make changes in line item where we're going to be doing what we call a lookup for the product ID that we need. That's one. Number two, we're going to have to do a little improvement on the product table where we could have the manufacturer in there as well. Just in case we have a couple products similar but two different manufacturers, a price variance between them. So we could do some sort of research in our own database in terms of what products are more popular from what manufacturer and so on and so forth, if it's needed. So it just gives you more flexibility in terms of your data analysis. So let me close this, right? So it's asking me to save these. I'm going to say yes, right? So I'm going to close this. I'm going to show you. If you go to line item, you have an order ID, which is 1, which is the first order ID, 2, associated to client. So if I go to orders transaction, notice that order ID is for client 1, and it was done on this date. Okay? And that's how your database tracks everything. So you're not going to see, for example, under transaction, first name, last name of the client. You're going to see what references client, which is their client ID. So this is fundamental in a relational database. Okay, so let's go ahead and make some improvements. So first you need to close everything. Okay, you could leave the relationship window open. So I wanted to create another table where I have manufacturers. So first let me make sure I hit save. I'm going to go create table. I'm going to go over here, manufacturer. Okay. And under manufacturer, we could leave a manufacturer ID. Now, the manufacturer ID does not have to be an order number in my case. You're not going to have tons, unless you have tons of them. You could make it a string, or what we call a short text, which means you're going to have to enter it yourself. And this is definitely a primary key. As you can see, the key is right here. Maybe right here, manufacturer name. We could even have the address for that. Name is supplied as reserve, or we could leave it alone. Or you could say manufacturer name. Not that it will matter that much if you left it as name. Even though you got that warning, it will still work. Manufacturer name, address. And maybe city, state, zip, maybe phone. So this way you can send them requests. You could have email, etc., etc. So as you can see, any information related to manufacturer could be here. Okay, so let's save that. Okay, and let's put some manufacturers. Okay, let's say we have IBM 100, manufacturer IBM, International Business Machines. I don't know what city or state there are. I'm just going to say New York. Now, some fields, as you can see, they're not necessarily required, okay? Let's say we have MSFT 100. This would be Microsoft. Let me spell it properly. Microsoft, okay? That could be Washington. Next, let's say we have this could be Cisco. Okay, not sure what state they're in. I'm just going to type Maryland where I'm at. Okay, so let's suppose we have these 3 manufacturers. Okay, great. Now, remember, my manufacturers are not related to clients at all at this stage. So let me save the data that I have. Let's go to relationships and add manufacturer here just so you can see. So You could say show table, and here's manufacturer. So I'm going to double click on it, as you can see here, bring it here. I can look at all the fields. My idea is that the manufacturer will have many products. I don't have a reference here to manufacturer on the product, or what we call a foreign key. Okay. Remember, your manufacturer ID is a string or text field. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And it happened to be a short text field of 255 characters. You're going to do the same thing on the product. Okay. Except you already have some products. So you may have to force some IDs on the existing products for the manufacturer. Otherwise, you're going to have a referential integrity. Okay, so we're going to start with that. So I'm going to go to the product table and add a field. So I'm going to go to design mode and add a field. You can insert anywhere you want. So I could insert it right above it. Okay, right mouse click, insert rows, and this would be manufacturer ID. And this would be a short text as well. So again, product ID will be your primary key. This now will be your foreign key for that references to manufacturer. I'm going to make it interesting, where I'm going to make this a lookup, which means what you will do is you're going to have to look up the manufacturer in that field. So if I run this, I'm going to save this here. As you can see, these are empty at this stage. Notice I am not going to establish the relationship between these two, because if I do, I'll get an error. And well, let's see if I do. And the reason is because I already have some products without a manufacturer. So if I do this and I say create, well, right now I didn't do the enforce referential integrity. As soon as I do this, then I get an error. So I'm going to say, okay, cancel this, leave that line in there. I can come back, double click on it, and then enforce referential integrity. So we know this is a tentative relationship between these two. That's the intent. Now we're going to have to make it happen by making sure the product table has some manufacturers whenever you have an actual product. Okay, so I'm going to go back to design mode, and I'm going to focus on the manufacturer ID, where I am going to make it a lookup. A lookup means instead of me entering it, it'll be nice if I could click on a button, and the field will in the field I will have a selection of manufacturer IDs. Okay, so how do you do that? You're going to go over here. You could say combo box. Do you see where I went? So first of all, let me show you where you will be. It will be somewhere here. You're going to click on lookup. And then you're going to say, okay, what do I want? I want to leave it as a text box, list box, combo box. These two typically is what you would do. Combo box is the way to go. Let's see how it works. Notice it says, what is the source? Is it a table or a query? It's definitely a table, so leave it alone. Now you're going to tell it where. So you click here, and you're going to say manufacturer. Excellent. So now you're going to say, what are you bounded to? Well, the manufacturer, the first column, number one, is the manufacturer ID. How many columns do you want to display? Maybe two. I want to see the manufacturer ID and the name, just in case the manufacturer ID is too cryptic. However, it will only store column one in the product table. Okay, all right, so let me save this and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go to view here, and if you click here, there you go. Let me just even widen the field here. And you can see two fields here, Cisco, IBM, Microsoft. What it will store, however, is the first field that you see here. So if I do MSFT, even if I click on Microsoft, it saves MSF 100, right? So that's the primary key that it stores. How about the joystick? Let's make it IBM. Here you go. Okay, so now I have manufacturer IDs for each one of my products. Now let's save that, and let's go back to the relationship. And if I double click on that line, and this time I want to enforce the referential integrity, I should have no issues whatsoever. Let me just click on it here. right? And enforce referential integrity. And okay, I got to close the table. That's what it's asking. That's fine. So we're going to close this. Close manufacturer. Okay, double click here. Enforce referential integrity. Voila. And we're in good shape. So the manufacturer now has many products. So this is typically, if you need to massage a feature into this, you have to be a little careful because of the referential integrity issues. Okay. All right. So the same idea. We're going to do the same thing with the product ID in the line item. Except this time the referential integrity is not an issue. We just need to do a lookup under product ID for the line item table. So let's go to line item table. Okay. We want this to be a lookup. So let's go to design mode. And we're going to go to order product ID. And we want that to be a lookup. So watch how you do it. You're going to go back here. Again, very similar technique. You're going to go to combo box, table to query, indeed. And I'm going to go to product. So this is going to come from product, bounded to column 1. This is why your primary key should always be column 1. It makes it easy. And show me. You could let's look at product. In the product, we want column 1, maybe column 2 and 3. You could, well, it depends how big your table. You don't want to overdo it. So maybe 3. So it shows who what the product ID is, who the manufacturer is, who the product name is. So you could do something like this. By the way, just close product. Well, leave it alone. So column count, I'm going to say 3. Okay. So that way, it will show me these specific columns, the 3 that I have there. So let's see how it works. So if I go over here, let's see if I saved it. Under line item, lookup. And it is a combo box, indeed. Okay. So save it. Go over here. It's under product ID. Here you go. As you can see, so let me just widen it up. When you click here, you can actually select whichever product you want to sell at that time for that order. Okay, good. So let's go ahead this time, complete a transaction again. So let's close. Yes, save this. Let's close this. Let's go ahead and start with client. And let's have John Glenn purchase a joystick. Okay, so we're going to go over here. So this is a new transaction. We're going to put today's date, which is 03/09/2020. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. And notice now I have a plus sign here, so I'm going to click here. And it's going to say, okay, what product do you want? I'm going to click here. I want a joystick, and I want 2 of them. Right? So we could put that on the LEM, Lunar Landing Module. There you go. All right. So there you go. Now let's suppose I want to purchase more items for John Glenn. You can click here, and I can go ahead and do a play platform. And all right. So for some flight simulation, there you go. 1. All right, so now John Glenn bought 2 products. So he has 1 transaction dated 3/9/2020 with 2 products. So just working with tables and these little plus signs you have here makes data entry a little easier. In our next video, we're going to use forms to enter data, to do something very similar to this, but guide the user through some sort of an easier interface, something they're a little more familiar with, buttons, navigation arrows, and things of that nature, to commit data into a database. This requires that you kind of understand the structure of the database. So we want to make it easier for mere mortals to enter data into your database. So that will be the objective of the next video. Thank you.